Welcome, welcome. This is Richard. My name is Richard Henry, Pastor Richard Henry, and I am doing an Ask Me Anything. Ask Me Anything. Wanted to do a video today. Today is September 1st. I did take a Sabbath, as it were, of YouTube, Twitter, Gab, Facebook. I'm not really on Facebook that much, and anything else. And here we are. So the plan is to have you all ask any questions. I know it's a little bit later, 8:30 Central Time, my time. Of course, it's 9:30 Eastern Time. But if you have do have a question, let me know. And if you're watching this after the fact, you can put that in the comments, and I'll try and get to that too. So feel free to drop a question, say hello. I'm going to be discussing a few things that I have planned. One of which is doing a separate channel entirely for Contra Talk. Contra Talk is my talk show, as it were, that basically has long-form interviews that talking about different subjects, other things. Usually it's just one guest. I've done a couple where I've done two. But that's the plan. I'm going to have a separate channel for that. So this will be a little bit longer form, whereas these will be shorter and keep things consistent with what I'm doing right now. So ask me anything. I'm going to be doing some man on the street interviews and things like that of that nature on this channel. But when I sign up for that channel, when I post that, I urge everybody to go over there and check it out. I'll tell you all more about it when I actually do that, because I'm going to populate. I have a theory about YouTube and algorithms and other things. And I have a theory, and I'm going to try and execute some different things on a new channel. It's not going to be in replacement of this current channel, but it will be in addition to that channel. And so that's the plan anyway. Let me go ahead and grab this here and do a share screen, because I want to show you all this. Okay, so this is my regular channel. Welcome new subscribers. By the way, I've had another, 20 or so subscribers in the month of August. I did do a show, sort of. I recorded a show with John Harris at Conversations That Matter beforehand in the end of July. And then August, he had asked me about being on his show as well. And I thought, well, I'm going to break my rule. I don't know. Jason, a dear woke Christian, called me out. I wasn't trying to hide. I mean, it was just really the goal was to not do any responses to emails or comments or rebuttals, or even just producing my own content. Sitting for 45 minutes to an hour and talking with John like this versus sitting and talking with somebody in person, coffee, at church, wherever, I didn't really mind. So it wasn't that big of a deal for me to do that. But here's my channel. So this is Richard Contramundum, and again, new subscribers, thank you. I do produce content more regularly. Those who came in August, like I said, I had probably another 20 or so, and yeah, it's been good. I usually post a couple times a week, shorts as well as long form, and by long form I mean 20-25 minutes. And I mentioned a moment ago that I'm going to be doing a Contra Talk channel. So that's the talk show where I'm interviewing people, more podcast, and where I'm kind of sitting back and just probing the person, peppering them with questions. And I've talked to a number of different people, scholars, regular YouTubers, normal quote unquote people, a couple of different pastors, and different theological persuasions about different subjects. Talked about end times, eschatology with a couple different people. It's been good. It's been good. So those are the plans. But this is the Ask Me Anything. So if you have a question, do ask me. And if nobody drops in, that's okay. You can ask after the fact. I know it's later. I don't normally do it. The one caveat is, hey, Daryl and Edwin, welcome, guys. So I'm in an attic right now, and I've redone this space. I won't turn the camera around for sake of revealing my secrets, but I'm in an attic. And it's a nice space, and it worked great in December when I started doing it. If you go back in some of my videos, I've been producing content for about a year, consistently for about 14 months. And it was great in December. This is shiplap. Like, this is real. This is a real fake plant here. So this isn't a green screen. I don't like the green screen personally. I think it's fake. I get it. I understand, but I'd rather have authentic things personally. Anyway, I did that. It was cold, great. January, February, March, April, into May. It was like, oh man, it's hot in here. And then of course, June, July, August. And so it gets over 100 degrees in this spot. I've a couple where I'm like talking to a guy, like even at 10 a.m. and I'm like starting to sweat and I can see like, not great. That being said, I don't usually do lives at this late at night. I'm going to try and figure something else out as far as a different office space or insulating this better and cooling it down and things. So anyway, yes, thank you. Welcome back. There's like Edwin singing from Proverbial Life. If you don't know him, check him out. He's also a pastor up in New York. Those who don't know, I'm a pastor here in Kentucky. Drinking some tea here. And pastor of a small church here. And it's been great. Been there. That's like my southern's coming out. I've been there for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in December. I did pulpit supply before that. And just filling the pulpit. They didn't have a pastor. And just filling the pulpit there. And so they called me. I needed a pastor. They needed a pastor. It was, of course, middle of 2020. And yeah, crazy times. But the church is generous and kind and a lot of turnover. But we've also had a lot of people move to the area and have come afresh and are, dare I say, far more interested and invested than people who haven't, quote unquote, returned after COVID. And so we've got a lot of that. And I'm thankful. I think the Lord has really used 2020 and 2021, but especially 2020, to purge and reveal people, maybe their hypocrisy, maybe their own sin. They realized they didn't need church. I want to give the benefit of the doubt. Some people moved or whatever. Switched churches. I mean, we switched churches. We don't go to the church I was going to. I went to seminary in Louisville, for those who don't know. Moved originally from California, moved to Louisville in late 2013 and went to seminary there. And so we were members of a church there and up until late 2020, early 2021, technically, because we transferred membership. But anyway, so that's that. I do pastor a church, a New Harvest Baptist Church, which I will pull up right now since there are no questions. That's okay. This isn't Ask Me Anything. So those in the live, we are live at this moment, 8:40 p.m. Central Time. Those who are watching later, drop a comment and ask me a question there, and I will get to that. But if you're live, I see 6 people are with us. Go ahead and ask a question. Daryl's driving, and Edwin already knows probably most things more than me. So, but no, he's very astute as well, and he's got a great channel. Like I said, check his out, The Proverbial Life. Wonderful man of God, husband and father. Let's see here. Did it pop up? Yes, it popped up. So here we go. So New Harvest Baptist Church. So this is the website, newharvestbaptist.org. You can see that at the top there. Pretty easy. Helped redesign this with one of our other deacons. That's my background, is actually graphic design and media. I did that for a number of years before I went to seminary, and I still do it. I'm still actually looking for and working both freelance and remote jobs, just to kind of my tent making, as it were. So that's the church building. I know the church building isn't the church, but it's a nice building for what it is. It's a country church, and we've got our little calendar here. This is probably not what you were looking for, but nobody's asking any questions, and so I'm just going to pretend like somebody asked about the church building. How about that? And so this is a feed. We've got our own separate YouTube channel that you can see as well. See here it is here. So New Harvest Baptist Church, 22 subs. And yeah, so I'm going through Acts right now. So going through Acts, chapter 13, middle of chapter 13, kind of doing a sub-series. I know some pastors will kind of still do expositional, but then they'll do series within. I've never really done that, but I think it's helpful. So I'm kind of switching that. Hint, hint, nod, nod, or wink, wink. I don't know. But I am switching that up and looking at trying to focus a little bit more. So this is the first missionary journey here, chapter 13, chapter 14. And it's really where the switch with Saul to Paul, even though Paul was just his Roman name, Gentile name. And because a lot of people, like Ricardo, even in one sense, I've had a few people call me Ricardo. I'm not Spanish. But if I went to go like Peru or something, I might go by that name. And more of kind of a contextualization, a little bit more, like Hudson Taylor and others, where they will wear the clothes or the dress or certain things. So anyway, we've got a couple questions here. I see those, so I'll get to those in a moment. But yeah, my point is doing subset first missionary journey. So I generally record all the sermons, do audio and video as well. It's our lead deacon there, Sam Mashburn. He's been in the community for a long, long time. He grew up in the area. Great guy, great family. And anyway, I have men read beforehand, read the scripture, generally from either what I'm preaching or, in this case, working through Luke's Acts. So Luke, wrote Acts. I'm having the men read from the Gospel of Luke, kind of almost as a parallel. There's 24 chapters in Luke, 28 in Acts, so we're a little bit behind. This is like Acts chapter or Luke chapter 9 something. Anyway, so that's fun. And if you want to check out the church, feel free. And like I said, this is the website or the YouTube, New Harvest Baptist Church. It's just a text logo. You can see that there. And then, of course, the website, newharvestbaptist.org. We've got the sermons here, or not sermons. That's not what I wanted. We could still use this more. These are just audio sermons from last year. Kind of need to update some of this, I'm sure. I update a lot of there's me, there's Sam, Nicole, and Patty, and Kelly. We need to add a few other people on here. But without further ado, we have a couple questions. Let's see here. So, St. Anthony, or his real name, Gregory. Maybe I shouldn't say that. No, you don't care, because we're gonna be doing a Roman Catholic debate with this gentleman here. That's going to be coming up in a couple weeks. Gregory's out there in California, and Mario, also a supporter of the channel, he's in Tennessee, and they both used to be the other. So look out for that. Mario used to be Roman Catholic, and now he's Protestant. He's Reformed. Specifically, he went to seminary, I believe, and I believe, Gregory, you did too, right? And you used to be Reformed, and now you're Roman Catholic. And so we're going to have a lively, good debate in a couple weeks. So stay tuned for that. That'll be live just like this, and it will be on this channel and my new channel as well. So how many families attend your church? Not to avoid the question. So there's us, of course. There's several couples, several singles, and then families, I guess. Do you count with kids? If you're doing kids, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consistently, I'd say 5 with children, and then there's 5, 4 or 5 couples, 4, I think, and then a couple singles. I see Edwin's question. Yeah, so I'm praying. You can pray with me. I'm praying for 2 more families with 4 children or more. Very specific. We've had a lot of other people. We've had quite a few visitors. We've had one gentleman. He visited a couple weeks. He came to a men's breakfast, but he wasn't there with his wife and his son, and they weren't really looking for a new church or wanted to switch necessarily. That's okay. And then another gentleman, they had several children. He just visited once. Different guy also visited once, had his children but no wife. I think I've when I preach, I get it. When I preach, what am I getting at? I would go once just to kind of scope it out, because there's a lot of interesting churches, especially in smaller rural churches, rural areas and things. And so I would always go once. New Harvest was no different in early 2022 or 2020, where I would go. I just went and I preached. And then the next week they asked me back, and I brought Jenny and the kids. So, it's good for husbands to scope out. If we were to move to a new area, I would do the same thing, because there's snake handling in certain places. There's crazy loud prayers. There's speaking in tongues. There's, I mean, it's I don't want to say it's crazy, but there's a lot. I mean, there's a couple like Church of Christ. I've never been to a service, but apparently don't do any instruments, and that's a big thing in this area. There's Mennonite churches. There's Presbyterian, Cumberland Presbyterian. So it's like Eastern Kentucky. For some reason, it's called Cumberland. I knew the history a little bit, but it split, and it's super liberal. There's Methodists, of course, and a bunch of other different ones. So anyway, yeah. So, 4 to 5 families with small children, and then another 3 to 4 like couples, and then quite a couple widows, and a couple single people as well. There's a family that they've got 3 children. He moved out, went to college, and then they've got 2 daughters. One's 18 and one's like 20, 21. So they're still in the church. So they kind of, I guess, count, right? What Susie Q says, what did you do on your month off the internet? Yeah. So I was hoping to do more. Aren't we all, right? Hoping to do more. I interviewed my old pastor and his wife. I'm actually working on, that's another project I'm working on. Oh, I meant to do chapter breaks here. Oh, well. I'm working on another project that is a documentary on basically female pastors, preachers, and looking at the history of that. I've cut a trailer, although it's not completely finished, but I'll let you all know. And definitely will be telling you about that because, yeah. Let's see. Sorry here. I worked on that. I interviewed them. We went up to Louisville, so that's where they live now. He used to be my pastor in California. So we moved and then went to started to go to seminary, involved in a church, and they moved like 2 years later, a year and a half later. And it just didn't work out for us to go to their church for whatever reason. Basically, another church called him. There's a big connection with a lot of people in California and Southern Seminary. And just how it is, I think, partly with Masters and, of course, MacArthur and Moeller. They are friends, were friends, probably less close these days. But anyway. So I did that. I restained some of our porch. I pressure washed the whole outside of the house. We've got a decent sized house, nothing huge. It's a story and a half. And we've got like a lower roof. So I stood on the roof and pressure washed all the eaves and everything. It was really nasty. We live near the road and also a railroad track. And so I think part of it was kind of like mildew and part of it was also just soot and just kind of junk. It just wasn't looking good. And so I did that. And my birthday was in August. So we hung out there. We went to the lake. We looked at a couple houses, which I see Edwin's comment. So you're moving. I'm going to ignore the Presbyterian one. No. We're thinking, I don't know. I mean, it's like we'd like more land, like even a couple acres, but moving's a hassle. And we did buy our house here. And it's like, but you always lose money when you move, depending on when you do it. And anyway, so we looked at, I don't know, three or four houses. I looked at 3 or 4. Jenny looked at 1 or 2, my wife and kids. So not a lot, not as much as I wanted to. I did go to I guess I did. I did go to a CBN, Conservative Baptist Network. So the church is SBC. I'm not like diehard SBC, but I appreciate it. I think there's a lot of good still in it. I think now is the time to fight and at least make a, fighting effort. I know some people disagree with me. A.D. Robles, John Harris. Some of those guys are very outspoken against it. I think Joel Webbin too. I'm not sure. I don't follow him as closely. But I think this is the time to fight. If we've been fighting for the last 5 years and it's just defeat after defeat, okay. But we haven't been. We haven't really been doing anything. And there's been very few people really calling things out and making documentaries on Twitter, talking to people, going to meetings, going to the annual meetings. There's annual meetings, there's regional meetings, there's statewide conventions. So I'm going to go to the statewide convention too. That's in November. But I went to one that was in Conservative Baptist Network, a subset of the SBC. It's kind of just a group of churches that are like, hey, we're concerned, other people. And it's different, mostly the South, and different theological persuasions a little bit. But again, we love the Bible. We love the Word of God. We love it's sufficient. We love Jesus. That's their mantra. So what's up? Restoring Heroes Project. I love it. Yes. So Gregory was a PCA chaplain, Presbyterian Church of America, not the liberal one. Although they're working on it. Aren't they working on it? They're working on it. Are you Presbyterian yet? No, but you're like covert Presbyterian in a Baptist church, aren't you? But they know you are, so it's not like you're hiding. It's like when a guy's a Calvinist and they don't know he's a Calvinist, or vice versa. Or he's like pre-mill and they're post-mill, or vice versa. Or usually it's post-mill and they're pre-mill. Or worse, much worse. It's like, oh yeah, I believe the Bible. And they're like, yeah. And then he's like, well, he starts citing all these godless theological people and they don't actually believe the Bible. And then he gets fired and splits the church and everything else. So he is post-mill, so he's on their way. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of pull a Gary DeMar, though, if y'all know Gary. Uncle Gary, as he's called by many. He's great. He's been on the channel. I've got another interview with him already in the can. It's coming, so just look out for that. I've talked to him a handful of times. If you haven't seen those, it is on the channel. And yeah, he's got a great perspective. And it's not like his new perspective. It's actually just literal. He's the one who told me. I mean, just a little bit more about me. I mean, growing up in California, I didn't come to faith till I was in my early 20s. But you think, well, rapture, Jesus, this, tribulation, obviously the book of Revelation, obviously all these things, all those things are happening, all these things are true, etc. And you realize, yeah, okay, until you look at something else. This is like with a lot of things, until you're actually given something else, you don't. And this is what we really need to do. And I'm going to try and do this more and more, and having different theological persuasions, not necessarily, rank liberal or unbeliever necessarily, but having brothers and sisters in Christ, old, young, different groups, different areas, even different parts of the world, hopefully, where we can really come together and say, no, I love Christ. And that's not to have, this no bar, or a low bar, but to say the world is hostile. Right. And we need to have all of our friends, and as many friends as we can get. And, I don't want to say, oh, I'm a unifier and whatever. But at the same time, if you love Christ, if Jesus is sufficient, if God's word is true, you're trusting it, it's infallible, it's inerrant, and it's sufficient, and you're trusting Christ alone for your salvation, then yeah, let's lock arms. Let's do stuff. Now, local church and politics and ecclesiology, maybe not. I don't know. But when it's online, anyway, some things are going to change as far as how I've been doing some projects and things with even, the so-called discernment things. I did some stuff with JD Hall and other stuff. And I'm going to stand behind that. I'm not regretting any of that. But I think sometimes people will paint so much into a corner that's like, if you're not exactly like me, you might as well be a heretic and you're probably going to hell. And it's like, bro, like, you have not read history. You don't know the early church. And you've not been very many places, likely, because there are many Christians, millions around the world, that are nothing like you and have your preferences that are all different and everything else. Or anyway, so I think we need to really be a little bit more gracious to that. So you're moving. Yeah, this was a little while ago. Sorry. No, I mean, we're looking at a house. Maybe we've looked at a couple houses. But moving's also annoying. We would be moving in the area. We're staying. I'm confident the Lord wants us here for the next couple of years. I am, and have let the cat out of the bag a little bit. I have interviewed at a couple places, so y'all can be praying for that, for graphic design, because I really want to do that as tent making. I'm gifted in that. I've got years of experience doing that. And so if y'all know anybody, or if anybody knows anybody working remote, logos, branding, layouts, internet stuff, all the tons and tons of different things. That's my experience. I've got large format printing, digital formatting, After Effects, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, And yeah, I mean, I've been using those for like a decade and a half, all of them, off and on for a long, long time. So I've I've helped a number of ministries, churches, big businesses, small businesses, and worked full time before I went to seminary. And anyway, so I'm looking for that, and the church is fine with it here for me to do that remotely. So actually I can basically kind of have a second income and not only provide for my family more easily, but then also give back to the church, open up maybe even my salary now, and some other things. That's the prayer. And so I had an interview today which went really well, and then another one next week for that same company, and then a different one that's also close by. So again, y'all can pray for that. I appreciate it. So the plan is not to move. I like being here. This is wonderful. I love y'all. I know I've got California, New York, Texas. Susie Q, you're in West Texas, right? East Texas. We had a few snake handling churches here in East Texas. Yeah. Somebody else I talked to recently, they're in Abilene, West Texas. And I know Daryl's, I forget where Daryl's at. Shout out where you're at, Daryl. So anyway, so we're not moving at all. So yeah, I'm a prophet. Yeah. When you come into New York. So another thing, that's the other thing we're also planning, and that's more church. We're looking at helping some churches up in Vermont. So I've linked up with Mark Ballard. He was on the channel. Great guy, super humble, really approachable. He's the president of the Northeastern Baptist College, and he started the college about 10 years ago. Small Baptist college, and it's in the heart of Vermont in Bennington. And very secular, but also very gun, Second Amendment, libertarian types. So they're not like Bernie Sanders crazy. They're just, I don't know the Bible. And I've talked to a couple different pastors, and it's like an unreached people group. And so we're going up in October, and during the fall break for kids. And one of the families, she works in the elementary school too. So that'll be good for them to get away. Anyway, get to see the leaves and other things. So all that to say, we might swing by and say hello. I'll text you, Edwin, since I got your number. But I would love to see you face to face. We're going to be coming up the third of probably the 3rd would be the October. I'm passing through there. And so we're going to help a church plant up there, another church, and hopefully the college as well. And mostly it's going to be a work trip. We'll probably do some canvassing. I'd like to preach. I'd love to do that. I love to preach to other people and just see a different worship service. And it'd also be nice to just be part of a service. So we're going to at least that next week. We're leaving on the 2nd after service. So I'm going to preach the 2nd. And then the 9th, I'm going to have somebody. So it'd be cool to preach the 9th or on a Friday or something. But probably 3 or 4 work days. We've got a handful of new people coming. Yeah, so I love Gary. Yeah, Gary DeMar's great. Let's see. Mike Williams. Hey, man. How you doing? Welcome. Daryl's in Virginia. Super late. Welcome back, Richard. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't really gotten on too many channels yet. My wife and I both did the fast, and so it was good. Like I said, I didn't watch any videos either. I've just been feeling so distracted. Like I said, when I did the 2 videos, whereas wearing the blue shirt, and I think part of it's personality. I think part of it's just trying to just be content, which is something we all struggle with. Is just not knowing that the grass really isn't greener. And yeah, there are times where we're discontent and, the Lord kind of shoves us in one direction and we use our gifts and desires and go do this or that. But at the same time, I think we live in such a kind of microwave culture where we just want it now. It's just instant. We got to have it. If I don't have it right now, I'm really pissed. I'm just, I've got ADHD. I don't know. I can't decide. I'm distracted. My wife was just talking about a lady who she does YouTube stuff too. And her husband's got ADHD and 2 out of 3 of her kids got ADHD. And it's kind of like, listen, I'm not a doctor, but like, really? I don't know. I think we're overly diagnosing people and then overly giving people drugs for all these diagnoses, but that's another show probably. So yeah, so I've got that lined up as well. Probably do some videos with that. Hopefully link up with a couple people up there. I know Tim Frisch, if you all know him from a Frisch perspective. I'm going to see him. We've never met face to face either, but I've known him for a while, and we've done some stuff on each other's channels. And so that'll be fun to see that and just see the work there. But if you're thinking about like missions, short-term missions, or supporting a college, supporting church planting, I would strongly suggest you consider Vermont. I mean, it's like 11% evangelical, which may sound like a lot depending on who you talk to, but it's not. I mean, it's literally the worst besides Massachusetts. And I mean, it's basically 75% of people, 75% affirm same-sex marriage, homosexuality in general, abortion, morality is kind of like whatever, depends on the situation. And go figure, what is the percentage of people who don't read the Bible at all? Never read the Bible. 70%. Like, it's literally this correlation of like 1 to 1 of, I don't read the scripture, and oh, by the way, I think everything's just, oh, that's fine. All these things that God says, no, this is sin that will destroy you. No, that's not honoring. No, that's not glorifying to me. It's bad. Don't do it. Go figure. They affirm it. So it's funny. It's about a third conservative, a third moderate, and a third liberal. You'd think they're all just raging Bernie lovers, but most of them, according to several of the pastors I've talked to and others, talked to, I don't know, I guess 3 or 4 people now, 4 or 5 total, both in planning the trip and also just trying to get a feel for the area and what we're going to do up there and other things. And really, it's like, yeah, most people don't like Bernie Sanders at all. So it's kind of like California, right? Anyway, we got a couple more questions. Let's see here. St. Anthony Gregory, was your time away your wife's idea or yours? It was mine. Although I could see her having that too, but she's much more controlled. I will say, I admit, I watched a couple like Babylon Bee videos like within the last week because I was just like needing something to like distract me and laugh. So it was probably like maybe 4 or 5 total, but nothing else, I promise. So, but it was good. I mean, I'm on Twitter some too, and Gab, and I didn't do that either. Twitter can be so like helpful and also just dumb. And it's weird how like the algorithm and the crossover and like how people see your stuff and the comment, the sub comments, and I don't even know. So that's kind of dumb, but I'm glad we did it. In one sense, I'm kind of like, oh man, I wish I was really ready to come back and do stuff and do this. I'm going to be talking about Matt Chandler tomorrow, so look out for that and that whole kerfuffle. Yeah. But at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, I want to come back. It'd be nice to have another break. And I get why people get burnt out. That's why I did it. So if you're a YouTuber, I know we got several on here, take a break, schedule it, take a break, even a week off. Tell people, I mean, you know, we have days off, right? God gave the Sabbath and so on. And so I would encourage you to take a break because I've already seen a few people that I've kind of, you know, we all kind of have clustered together. I know some of us are on separate chats and things. And, you know, I know it seems like a few people have kind of got burnt out fast and or grew quick and are like, no, I don't know what to do. Or now I'm kind of just spinning my same wheels. And so take some time, plan. I didn't do a lot of planning, I'll admit, for the channel like I was hoping, but I did produce several things. I think I recorded 2 or 3 other conversations too that we'll be posting soon. So I'm still going to be doing probably 2 weekly videos, likely. So you've changed your profile picture. Is that another painting you did? I like. It used to be J. Marie, right? Now it's just Marie. I like it. Unless you're somebody totally different, but I don't think so. Does it feel to you that the world seems a bit crazier than usual since the 2020 election? Just wondering how things really feel to others. Yeah, I think so. It is. Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Well, welcome back, or welcome. I'm back, right? I think so. So I think Donald Trump really pulled the mask off a lot of people. And I don't want to like pussyfoot around and be like, oh, Donald Trump, well, I can't. Okay. Listen, all politicians are corrupt, all of them. We just knew about Donald Trump beforehand because he's an entertainer and he's a billionaire and he's been married 3 times and he's hanging out with Playboy models and other things. But let's be real here. If half of the stuff, even if a small percentage of the things about all these secret societies, wherever they are, whether it's Idaho or California or the East Coast or Skull and Bones, Bohemian Grove, even if some of that's true, which these people do go to these places, they're just as corrupt and just as wicked, just as sexually depraved, just as horrendous and evil as Donald Trump is. Except for he actually didn't participate and doesn't participate, seemingly, in a lot of these things. I'm not trying to defend him or defend Obama or Bush or anybody else. But I remember, in 2004, John Kerry was running against George W. Bush. They were both part of Skull and Bones, which is basically a Freemasonry fraternity for like super elite guys at Yale. This was back in like the 70s and maybe even late 60s. And it's like, you're both coming from the same stock. It's like, oh, but he has an R, so I like him, or he has a D, so I like him. It's like, that's just nonsense. So Donald Trump ripped off the mask of a lot of people, both in the media. Look at CNN; it's completely crumbling, and I knew it would. Not to say I'm a prophet, but they don't have anything to attack. They don't have Orange Man Band to point at. Brian Stelter's gone, Chris Cuomo's gone, somebody else is gone. It's terrible, right? But CNN's been bad for a really long time, and this isn't to quote unquote bash people. But when you don't have real substance and you're not really actually talking to people, or you're talking past people, or worse, you're gaslighting people and pretending like things aren't happening. Oh, CRT. Oh, you just don't understand it. Oh, you just don't understand the Bible. Oh, you just don't understand that theology. Oh, you just don't understand whatever. It's like, don't act like I'm an idiot. I'm not an idiot. No, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, Richard here, or anybody else. There's only so many smart people. But I'm Richard. I'm also not an idiot. And y'all watching, I wager you're all not idiots either. You're paying attention, especially if you're a follower of Christ. You've been enlivened with the Spirit. You're walking with Christ, and you're seeing these things. And there's principalities and powers and evil forces in the heavenly realm. And yet there's people, and there's people that are blind, and they're stuck in their sin. They're hardened by the deceitfulness of sin and all these things. And yet people don't act like that, or they pretend like there's no problems, right? That's really the worst. I really don't like when people do that. So I think it's gotten worse. I think, whether YouTube will do anything, I'm pretty sure the election was not normal. I'm certain there was a lot of mischievous things happening with a number of different drop-offs and this thing and charting this and ballots showing up. And did it do anything? It did, right? And did it sway the election? I'm not going to go that far. Probably. I don't know. I really haven't studied it. But what the problem is, and if you might hear that and think, oh, he's just a conspiracy theorist, forget this guy. That's the worst thing. It's the same thing as saying somebody's just dumb. Oh, that's just dumb. Have you investigated it, though? Have you really paid attention to these things? Don't just, if you want to be ignorant, then just say, oh, that's dumb. Oh, that's a conspiracy. I'm not going to pay attention. No, you should at least look at it and turn it over and say, that's interesting. Some people believe this. I wonder why they believe this. Now, it could be patently false, right? A lot of things are. But at least do yourself a service and look at it and say, could people benefit from this conspiracy theory? Or could people make money? Or could this or this or that? Is this theological thing true? Right? Like I said earlier with premillennialism, most people believe that rapture, tribulation, all this other stuff, things are going from bad to worse. And it's like, yeah, but if you don't pay attention to history and you actually are reading yourself into the text, Matthew 24, for example, where he's talking about this, you'll see this, and this generation won't pass away, and all these things. If you say, well, that's going to happen in the future, okay, I could see that. But if you say, I wonder if he's talking about, wait, so this is written in 60, 62, 63, Matthew is talking about Jesus in like 33, or excuse me, 30, 31, depending on how you date it. And yet, I wonder if he's talking about the destruction of Jerusalem, because that was destroyed in 70 AD. That was a big deal. And they don't have a temple anymore. There's a temple. They don't have this anymore. They don't do this. You see armies. All this stuff, right? And so when you kind of change your framework and you think, I wonder if there could be election fraud. Could there be election fraud? Could there be people who are corrupt in the media? Could there be corrupt politicians? Could there be lying pastors? Yeah, of course. Right. So then we have to turn it on its side and think, okay. And that's really why I do this channel. I mean, that's the whole contra. It's against something. It's contrary. It's where we get contradiction from. It's something contradiction. It's just against speaking the opposite. Now, I'm not trying to contradict anybody, but what I am trying to do is push against those things and help you do that too and encourage you to do that. So do that. Man, woman, young, old, doesn't matter. Do that when you're flipping through YouTube, when you're looking at something online, when you're reading a recipe, for goodness sakes, right? I mean, recipes aren't infallible. I mean, I like cooking. I like baking. I don't do it a lot, but I like it. And I'll find recipes. I'm like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? So I'll change it. My wife gives me a hard time, but just little things. You got to push against a little bit. You can't just be a sheep mindlessly following something. Unless, of course, it's the Lord. He's worth following for sure. So I think all that to say, Marie, that it is way more crazy than it was. I really do. Even in between 2016 and 2018. I don't know what's going to happen with the midterms. I really don't know. I mean, I've heard stuff that, they can't be funny business with the midterm elections because they're different systems. And I don't know. I heard some things from here in Kentucky that they basically ran a dry run with some Dominion voting in 2019 and how we have a blue governor in a very red state. Go figure. And his dad was the governor earlier before. And the previous guy, Matt Bevin, he was a big Trump guy, real nice guy. He's a believer. I'm confident of that. But he also was just very vocal, and he upset the teachers' unions. And so you upset one of the unions, people get annoyed, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's more, though. And I think there's been some funny business. I think there's a lot of nonsense. I mean, just look at the horrible track record so far in the last year and a half, 2 years. With Afghanistan, with inflation. I mean, gas prices. Dude, this is my favorite. We shop at Aldi. If you all know Aldi, it's kind of like a Trader Joe's, but like smaller. And anyway, they've got a lot of like name brand and a lot of knockoff brands. Sour cream has been 89 cents there for the longest time. It's now $1.69. And there's not one close to us. So we'll shop there and we'll buy. My wife just went earlier today. We'll buy several of the one thing because it'll last the month. So about like 4 sour cream. Now we're spending like an extra $3 on sour cream. Where does that come from? Is Biden giving me an extra $3 or Trump or whoever? No, and I don't even want your stupid handout. I just want you to make the economy and make things better, less regulation, open it up so we can actually work. So people can produce stuff without regulation and let the market adjust itself. That's how we need things to work. But the government ultimately doesn't trust us, right? They want control. They don't. And that's where self-government is massive, and why this country is so different from so many other countries is because the founders started and said, no, self-government. We need to give people an opportunity to do that. It's like forcing people to repent and believe the gospel. You can't force somebody to do that, right? They have to be convicted of their sin. The Spirit has to move, etc. You can't just say, you have to believe. Trust me. I have 4 children. Trust me. Anyway, that was a long answer. Lindsay H. Hello again. That's an easy question. / Yeah, Lindsay caught me on the video that I did with John Harris. So, yeah. What's up, Philip? Stopping in and saying hello. On break. Are you working? Are you at Home Depot, right? You said you were working a little bit. Phil, let me know. I met Phil face-to-face several months back. He's in Louisville. Fantastic guy. I still got to get him down here. I invited him down to our last men's breakfast. We're going to be doing another one. It's breakfast burritos and Bible and bullets. Burritos, Bibles, and bullets. So it's been good. We've had them all summer. Really nice time. Not normal. Very diplomatic. I know. Sometimes I'm trying to couch some of my words so when people go back and I'm like running for office or something, they can't nail me down as easily. But no, I mean, not to make light of that. I would encourage thus, though. I mean, not only because obviously the Lord is watching, and we would want our children and think of our grandchildren and others. I think online conduct is something that increasingly needs to be paid attention to. And there's certainly comments that I've been crass and rude, and other things, and sometimes I've deleted, or sometimes I've even had to apologize. But I would urge everybody to really at least reread it. Your tweet, your post, your email, and just, we don't want to be vague. We don't want to be spineless. But at the same time, we also don't need to be jerks and witches and snotty and terrible and gross and just ad hominem attacks and things. So anyway, just an encouragement there, I hope. Thank you for being honest. Yeah, absolutely. I try to be. I really do. I hate lying. I hate being lied to, and I hate lying. It's just, all liars will have their place in the lake of fire that burns with brimstone. That's something that's, kind of a big deal. Absolutely examine all things. In fact, we do examine things. People just choose what they want to look at. Yeah, no, it's true. It really is. You can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? Or lead the atheist to facts and can't make him think, is the other thing. I'm going to do a video on it, so I won't mention it, but it was I'll mention it, but it was a thing with Joe Rogan and my favorite atheist, Dr. Dickie D, Richard Dawkins. And Dr. Dickie D. I can call him Dickie because that's also my name. I feel sorry for the guy. I really do. All right. Question. What is your favorite Bible translation? Which one does your church use? Yeah, it's a great question. So it's a little more King James-y out here, as you would imagine. The church is certainly not KJV only. I would not have come if that were the case, or I would quickly change that with them knowing that. I know one of the guy you saw earlier, Sam, I don't know who was on here, but I was on the church website, the church's website, if you're curious, newharvestbaptist.org. And in fact, there's there. Yeah. newharvestbaptist.org. There's Sam right in the middle there. He's our lead deacon. He uses NIV. He likes NIV. I was saved. I came to faith 25, right? 24, 25, something like that. 24, 25 years old. Just got married next year or so. And both Jenny and I came to Christ within 6 months or so of each other. And that's for faithful preaching. Really, I understood my sin. I understand. Maybe I heard the gospel before. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. But it was about Christ. It wasn't about me and the proclamation of what he said. The pastor, actually Jack Hughes, who I interviewed, and you'll see that conversation at some point this month, hopefully, and just faithfully preaching the word. That was a big deal. And so they used NASB 95. Of course, the 2020 hadn't come out yet. I don't really care one way or the other about the 2020. I think personally, the Bible translation game is ridiculous. Again, little honesty. New King James, NET, NIV, NLT, New International Version, Revised Version, New Revised Version. Their Christian Standard Bible, Holman Christian Standard before that. Sorry, my nose is a little itchy. There's a lot. In seminary, a lot of the guys, Crossway uses ESV. That a lot of Reform guys, Calvinist guys like that. I like it I like NASB. I like New King James some. If I were to pick one that's not kind of like the mainstream, quote unquote, would be New Living Translation or Amplified. Those are both kind of cool. Use the word loosely, because they'll kind of flesh out stuff and have it not weird where it's like super contextualization, like the Message. Well, he's talking about Job answers his cell phone or something weird. Like there's some of that type in there and you're like, what? This isn't even close. And that's just a paraphrase. That's not even a translation, the Message. But NLT is nice because it kind of smooths out some of the things, and Amplified's cool because it'll stick in a few extra things. It'll, synonyms. So all that to say, I'd say ESV generally. It's not up here. I have more ESV Bibles now. I've got a reader Bible, which is this here. It's single column. I'll just hold it up and see if it'll adjust. Maybe not. It's not adjusting. That's weird. It's single column and the verses aren't in here, but it does still have kind of chapter breaks. So it's nice for just like a quick read. I don't read it as much at the moment. I read other versions or other physical Bibles. And then we've got ones that are like multiple volumes, and it's no chapter breaks, no anything, and it's great. It reads really well. They're hardbound books. So anyway, so yeah, the church, all that to say, I didn't answer that. NIV, I think several people, some of the newer folks use ESV or NASB. New King James, I know a few of the people use King James. One of the ladies, she's been coming really consistently and learning a lot. She's part of a women's group too on Saturdays. Well, that's once a month, but still on Saturdays. And she asked me, so I use King James, but like, what are you using again? I want to follow with what you're using and this and that. So we've got a couple like paperback kind of ESVs like this that people can pick up and follow along or keep them as well. Christian Standard is pretty SBC. I mean, it's fine. I know some people, I think I saw a Dean Lentini video, if y'all know him, on YouTube a couple months ago. He's like, oh, CSB. I love CSB. Okay, cool. I don't care. I've got a couple CSBs. I wasn't reared on it. I'm not going to switch for any reason, really. I think the ESV, English Standard Version, I think is a little bit smoother in some areas than the NASB. But if I were to pick between, it would be NASB, ESV. First, second, first. So love all the Marie. Yeah, no, me too. It's good. Eggs are $2.79. They were 49 cents. Are you for real? Wow, I'm complaining about sour cream. Yeah, we try and get the organic eggs. Regular eggs like make my stomach weird, but like we switched to like the brown, like free rangey ones several years ago, and there's like no problem. So you can tell even by the color of the yolk, it's kind of crazy, like the pale versus really, really rich. But that's what they're eating too, and all that. Wonder if inflation will be solved by student loan forgiveness. Wink, wink. Yeah, absolutely, Phil. Totally. The Babylon Bee article was like, what did it say? Biden forgives $10,000 student debt. In other news, universities and colleges raise their tuition by $10,000. It's just a freaking joke. I mean, it's like, I don't know. Yep, at Home Depot. Yeah, you're working at Home Depot. That's good. Yeah. Why did you start your church? I didn't start the church. Like, it's not a church plant. I was talking about a church plant earlier that is, so I talked to a gentleman for an hour and a half. He's a guy up in Vermont. He's from, I can't remember now, somewhere else. And they went up there, I think Michigan, and he felt the call to be in Vermont. And I don't know. I mean, again, when I come back, I might tell some of y'all to go, or we might all have to go to Vermont, because not only is it really pretty, but it's really the conversations that I've heard people have with people. I mean, it's literally like an unreached people group. I mean, they don't even know who Jesus is. Like, it's beyond comprehension. Anyway, so this gentleman, Michael is his name. He's pastoring a small church, and he's like, I've been here 6 years. We need to plant other churches, other faithful, gospel-loving churches. And so there's another church just down the way, building that he located and figured out, and these people own it. He's like, hey, what about a church here? And they're like, yeah, we want to do that too. And so it was crazy. I love this story. I love when this happens. So he's praying, and he's been praying for this area. He's been driving past this building in this neighboring town that he's currently in. And it's kind of windy roads, it's hilly and all that. And so it's a neighboring town, but it's pretty separated. And so he's been driving past this. Oh man, we need to have a church down here. There's no churches, no faithful churches. And the town's 1,000, 2,000 people, something like that. So he prays on Tuesday nights. And so he finally gets the information from the person and calls them the next day, the people who own this building. So good. And he says, hey, I'm curious. I'm a pastor over in this town, and we want to see a church in St. Petersburg. I think that's what it's called. Maybe it's just Petersburg. Anyway, it's like, yeah, we'd like that too, the owner says. It's like, yeah, we were actually praying last night about what we should do with this building, whether we should sell it, whether we should, turn it into maybe storage facility. I don't know. Well, we need to do something with it. Literally that same night, that Tuesday night, they're talking on Wednesday, that Tuesday night, Pastor Michael, who's pastoring a church, sees this building. He's here praying for this church and been praying for this church, finally links up with the owner. That same owner had also been praying that last night about the church building. Like, if you don't believe in God, that's literally one of a billion reasons too. If you don't believe in a sovereign, provisional, kind, all-knowing God who moves and shapes and convicts and encourages, and we're these spiritual creatures that are bouncing around this planet for a few years, and then we meet him in glory, either in everlasting life or everlasting death. I don't know how, it's just a coincidence. That doesn't explain it, though. It's just a mathematical probability. That didn't explain the reason why this guy's praying and this guy's praying on the same night. Unbelievable. I love it. So they're going to start a church this month. So we're going to hopefully help them as well. Probably do some canvassing and invite people and things. So he's actually pastoring a second church in the evening. So maybe that's what I said, or maybe that was how it was caught. I didn't start the church. I pastor now. James, I did. I put my water in the freezer, and my wife is like, what are the chances you're going to forget that? I was like, 50-50. Yeah, totally forgot it. I brought my tea, though, but that's drying me out. We'll wrap up here, I think, pretty quick. I don't want to go more than an hour or so. I didn't start New Harvest. It started 30 years ago as kind of a plant or split, depending on who you talk to. And there's only one person left from those days 30 years ago. And she's wonderful. But everybody else has moved on or died or whatever. And so I'm there. It's been pretty rough, though, for the body, honestly. Not just with 2020 and COVID and things. But there have been a few deaths over the years. I mean, several older people, right? 30 years. Somebody who's 60, 30 years ago. Now they're 90 if they're still around. But they've had 7, 8, 9 pastors in those 30 years. I mean, John MacArthur's been the pastor 30 plus years, right? As an example, guys like Piper and Sproul and some of these other, people we all know, the pastors for 20, 30, 40 years in these places. And so when most churches, though, and this is, I think, why most churches don't grow, why most churches don't numerically grow, spiritually grow, and where the people kind of just, they're apathetic. What's the point? There's something for some staying power. Now, I don't know. I don't think I'll be here for 30 years or 20 years or 10 years. Possibly, though. I don't know. But finances have to play a part in that. So James, I didn't start New Harvest, but I started at the church because I felt convicted they needed a pastor, and they were seemingly enjoying my teaching and learning and my preaching and all the rest. So, I needed a position. They needed a pastor. That was kind of really it. We were looking at doing moving back to California or Nevada. I interviewed in 2020. I interviewed at a church in Mesquite, Nevada, just outside of Las Vegas, and a church in Winnemucca, Nevada, northern Nevada. My parents are in Las Vegas, so it kind of made sense. I applied at a couple churches in northern Arizona, which my wife and I both really love that area. It's very beautiful, high mountains, high desert, but also trees, and just, it's really, really nice. I got a couple interviews, but I didn't get very far. 2 different churches in Oregon. One was on the coast, super beautiful, in Manzanita, which means small apple in Spanish. And then Eastern Oregon, which was near Idaho. And that one, they both would have worked out, and I pulled the plug on both of them. One was an associate on the West Coast, and one was East Coast. Well, I shouldn't say the other one, to be truthful. The one in the eastern part of Oregon, that was for lead pastor, everything lined up. But 1 or 2 people, because I'm pursuing further education, although I haven't been for reasons, life reasons. But they didn't want me to do further education past a master's. And it was kind of unusual to me. And so they didn't want to pursue me any further. They have seemingly a good pastor there now. And then what else? I talked to a church group in Montana. That's a bunch of like small Bible churches, like a micro denomination. They've got some camps and some conferences and things that they do called Rocky Mountain Bible Mission, RB, Rocky RMBM. There it is. And it just didn't seem right. And there was kind of like, they approved us as missionaries, but like there wasn't a role. There wasn't like open churches. There are about 30 or so churches. And now there is a couple. But now I'm like, well, I mean, now I'm settled here. And a lot of them are small. They're in Idaho, Montana, South Dakota. And it's great, beautiful area, God's country, as it were, right? And very pioneer mindset and all the rest. But they're really, really small. And a lot of them, they're part-time bivocational. And, you know, if I have a second job where I can do graphic design, media stuff. And again, if anybody knows, please drop me a line. I'd love to talk. I mean, that's my background: Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, layouts, logos, branding, posters, motion graphics, all that. If that's the case, let me know. But if I had that, then I could kind of go anywhere, right? And have quote unquote freedom to still make money, but it's not as much of a burden, because it can be a burden, and it is a burden for the church I pastor now, because our needs are more, really, realistically, not to get too transparent, but more than what the church can provide. But God is providing through different means, and we've had some savings and other stuff, but it can only last so long. And so really praying hard for another role within the media field that I can provide for my family that much more. So hopefully, and I'm hoping by now, but you know, whatever, YouTube would be past that 1,000 mark. So if you haven't subscribed, by the way, please subscribe. I haven't said that yet. Please subscribe and try to get past that 1,000 so YouTube can actually start doing some algorithm stuff. What are your thoughts on Kenneth West Creek Bible Works? Someone sent me an old 6-volume set. I don't know who that is at all, so I really don't have a comment on that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if he's a linguist and he's in the Greek, should be good. You know, I mean, you can only do so much with playing with the Greek. It's people get problematic when, I won't go down that road, but yeah, I mean, if it's Greek, you know, that probably is good. But I'm sorry, David, I don't know that guy, unfortunately. Yeah. Phil and I should work together. Yeah, he introduced me to a gentleman. We talked. He's got a production company, and I've no projects have lined up, but they haven't reached out. We had a good conversation about 7 weeks ago, but nothing has materialized. That's the frustrating part. There's a lot of jobs out there. I apply, I look, I talk, and like I said, I've actually had a few interviews now. I had one really good one today with a pretty big company, and it would be fantastic. It'd be remote. So again, if you would pray for that. And yeah, so let me just see Kenneth West, since I got a moment here. I'll wrap up here in a sec, but one other thing I want to show y'all is my website that I launched right before we did the Sabbath. So this is my website, richardthenry.com, and basically, hey, there's us. Ask me anything right there. So this is where you can find me with YouTube, right? So I've got my regular YouTube channel. I also have a blog. I only have the one post right now, but I'm going to be writing there a couple times a week. At least that's the plan. And then here's some stuff, some collabs. Some of you faces, people, you know these people. You can load some more. Go from there. There's Tim Frisch. There's Mark, AD, Jason, and Will. So that's that. richardthenry.com. Check that out. You can also find all my social links there. So Twitter, Gab. And if you want to help me financially, you can go to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee. Buy Me a Cup of Coffee is this guy here. buymeacupofcoffee.com/Richard T. Henry. And so basically what this is you can just give $20, $5, $5,000, whatever. No, but buy me a cup of coffee. It's like PayPal or better Patreon. Really nice. I know a lot of people use it, and I've been able to buy a few things because of it. I use that money specifically to kind of come back in. I do need to get a mic. So if you want to, this is actually sitting on, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books and a shoebox to prop it up so it can be close to me and all that. If you want to give me an arm, give me some money for an arm, that'd be nice. But y'all know nothing's cheap, right? So if the Lord moves on your heart, if you want to bless me in that way, you can do it that way. So buymeacupofcoffee.com/Richard T. Henry. So it's this one here. And that, again, you can follow that through my website, richardthenry.com. So got a little bit more explanation. I did talk about Athanasius, who's the 4th century church father, that I kind of use his name with being contramundum, but contramundum pro mundo. I added the pro mundo part, being against the world but for the world. So people are out there. The world is broken, but Christ has triumphed over the world. Jesus said, in this world you'll have trouble, you'll have tribulation, but fear not, I have overcome it. And so we can do that, and we can think more biblically when we push against these things and not just go with the flow. You could anything, right? Being contramundum, don't go with the flow. Right? Don't be a jackass, don't be a jerk, don't be rude, don't be a wit, don't whatever. But at the same time, pick it up, examine, look at it. I don't think so. Why are you saying that? Or why would you think that, or something like that? And pushing against people a little bit and getting a better understanding, and then gospel opportunities will open, and people will understand. Well, what is the right answer then? Well, what do you mean by that? You can have better conversations that way. So James said, what do you think the church can do to fight for biblical masculinity? Yeah, brother, that's a great question. And we're out of time. No. So, I mean, I would say minimum having, so obviously I pastor the church, and so I have a little bit more say, but I would encourage pastors, everyone listening, if you're a pastor or if you don't know your pastor, get to know your pastor, support him, pray for his family. I don't know any of your pastors except for Edwin, who's his own pastor, right? Because he's a pastor too. But besides that, talk to these men, encourage them, help them. How can you pray for them? How can you bless them? Maybe financially, or watch their kids, or I don't know, whatever. But then also encourage them, I would say at minimum, more scripture. As soon as I started, I instituted a call to worship, a very distinct call to worship, usually a psalm. We're worshiping. But the pastor is actually the worship leader, not the music guy. It's not music, and that's not worship only, right? The whole thing is worship. It's a worship service unto the Creator God. And so this whole thing is a service, not just songs and, now the guy's going to talk for 20 minutes or an hour or whatever. I don't care. Like that's not it. Giving is worship, right? Going is worship. Serving is worship. And so these things are all worship. So I did a call to worship, and I also have a benediction, all from Scripture. And, I'll read it, and I'll usually read a few verses, and I'll try and pray through it. Praying the Bible, by the way, is a fantastic book. I did preach a 7-week series on that book. It's a 10-chapter book. But praying the Bible, where you're praying, going through, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalm 23, classic, right? And then you can pray, God, help me not to want anything but you. Help me to know that you're shepherding me. Help me to remember, and these things, and you have much more rich, robust prayers. So I would say, if you know your pastor, and you guys, he starts with a joke, and there's not really much scripture, you got to have more scripture, period. And the other one is having also, I'm right now having men read from Luke. So having men do all these things, either a pastor or one of the elders or a deacon or just one of the guys in the congregation. I know there's, some people waffle on, women, Matthew, 1 Timothy 2, and exercise authority over a man. Like, obviously that's not preaching or teaching, but some people don't care about that, right? People still do that. That's part of this project I'm working on. I think it's safer, at least in the climate we live in, with hypersexualization, craziness. We don't know what a woman is. We don't know what a man is. Women preachers running around, and the rank liberalism of the last 120 years from the PCUSA and many American Baptist churches and many others. And they don't know what anything is. So even if it's allowable, right? Even if it's great, no, we should do those things. Is it wise? Is it profitable? So let's appeal to Paul. Can I do it? Oh yeah, probably. But should we do it? Right? Can I do these things? Okay, but should I do these things? Right? Could I wear flip-flops, a t-shirt, and shorts and preach? Of course. Do I? No. I wear this and slacks. Sometimes I wear a coat. Sometimes I wear a tie for communion, Lord's table. That gets me in the mindset, and that people with visiting or people who are here, it's less of a distraction because, well, that's what the preacher's wearing. Now, if it was 300 years ago, I may be wearing something different. 300 years from now, I'd be wearing something different, right? And so, just like in the first century, same thing. And so there's this level of like, well, Jesus didn't wear a suit, doesn't matter, blah, 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 or this or that. Well, we don't need to do this, and well, we can do that. It's like, well, you can, but should you? And so, should we have women doing these things that may or may not be sinful? Well, if we're trying to form a biblical masculinity and get men back and forming, men need to participate. Have men read. Have men try and teach men. Ask your pastor if you're not a pastor. Hey, do you have any resources? Hey, I'd like to teach a Bible study. I know, James, you're doing Restoring Heroes Project, and you've got such a good drive there and great content. And obviously press into that and keep going. But, I mean, I don't know what your pastor does. I don't know how big your church is or anything like that. But if you have time, and ask him, hey, can we do this? Hey, can you mentor me? Can you help me? Hey, me and Bill, we want to be deacons, or we want to do this, or we want to be maybe elders. I don't know. What does it look like? I love my family and we want to serve more. How do we get involved? And so I would encourage other men to do that with other men. And also, if you have the power or the influence, getting other men to read scripture, being and serving and asking, hey, why aren't you at this? Starting men's small groups. Men like mornings usually come meet at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. We started a men's breakfast. We've had it June, July, August. Going to do another one in September. And that's just once a month. But because it's kind of an ordeal, because we go to somebody's house and it's a firing range and all that. And it's great. But it's work. Right. So I would say the little stuff, think about, well, can we do it? And then should we do it? And then, tell you what, why don't we have men do that? Can a woman do it? Yes, probably. In these certain situations, probably. This isn't to diminish women. But when we have men not leading, we have women step up and lead because, well, men struggle with laziness. Women generally don't. Women struggle with gossip. Men generally don't, right? So we have our own sin. We all sin. Let's not pretend like women don't sin or men sin more or something. We're all sinners, right? Let's be biblical here. But when men don't step up, well, women step up. And then when men aren't doing their job, women aren't doing their job either. They're like, well, she can preach. I don't care. God says no, right? Well, she wants to be an elder. Okay. God says no. Like, it's not that hard, right? So I would say the little stuff, reading, getting men, small groups, things like that, and trying to help your pastor, influence your pastor, encourage him, maybe give him materials. Maybe he listens to podcasts. Maybe he listens. I don't know. I mean, I'm open to talk to whoever. I'm busy, but I like to make time for people. Both, obviously, of course, in my congregation is priority. But if you want to reach out, you want to do emails, got other questions, conversations, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm going to wrap up here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. But if someone's pastor wants to talk, hey, point them my way. Seriously, my email is in there. They just go to my website too, richardthenry.com. richardthenry.com is my website. So yeah, I hope that answers it, James. Judy Hall, I've been following you for a while now. Thank you, Judy. I appreciate that. I'm always curious how long people have followed and paid attention and when they subscribe and everything. So thank you for saying something, first of all. And thank you for following. Could you tell me what donation didn't... Do you mean, it says donation. Do you mean denomination? Because I don't belong to a donation. unless you're thinking about something else. Not that it matters as long as you are not a cult. But my husband was asking me. Oh, sure, no problem. I had another gal. She was like, her husband said, because she's helping me with some branding and other things and kind of just ideas to do my channel in a different way. And okay, Judy said, yeah. So denomination. So long story short, SBC, Southern Baptist Convention. And yeah, I mean, I know, again, you probably know like John Harris and some of the other guys, and oh, it's dead. It's not. It really isn't. I know most of the churches, thousands of SBC churches, are faithful, God-fearing churches, and they don't really know what's going on. Now, some of it's their own ignorance and their own problem, and they should know what's going on. But, that's part of the reason why I do this channel. Now, I'm not tried and true forever SBCer. I mean, if the ship is really, really going down, which, I mean, it's leaking for sure. There's definitely liberalism. There's definitely critical theory being taught at some places. There's gaslighting, people lying and pretending like that's not really happening, whatever. But I think there's a lot of good, because basically the SBC puts all their money in a pot called the cooperative program, and those go to support the colleges, the seminaries, especially the seminaries, not the colleges, technically. It's really, there's 6 seminaries, and then domestic and international missions. So if you want to be like an international missionary, you don't really have to raise any money. You're just like, I want to go do the training. Yeah, I'd like to go here. And then however many months later, you're there. And you're not constantly coming back. Hey, we need more money. Hey, please. Hey, please. That sort of thing. So that's really the big deal with that. Plus, the SBC trains a third of all pastors, even though it's only like 15% of the overall Christians in the country. 30+% are trained in the SBC. And so whether that's Presbyterian, Lutheran, Baptist, non-denominational, Calvary Chapel, you name it. So I grew up, though, going to a Baptist church, wasn't saved. I was saved at Calvary Bible Church, it's just a non-denominational Bible church. Influenced loosely, or not loosely, but fairly heavily with MacArthur. And there's some things I differ with MacArthur on, although I love him so much, and I'm very thankful for his constant ministry and everything else. So how do you decipher theologian commentaries are more conservative or liberal? I have a lot of JMac, John MacArthur, Piper, and a set from Williams, looking to expand. Thanks. Yeah. So that's a great question. I would say that, where is their tenor of belief? Are they approaching the scripture with a sense of belief, with this is God's word? Or are they saying, well, we know that miracles don't really happen. I mean, it's possible this, but really it's more of a, you can get a sense for it. You have to read it. And, I mean, I would urge you to pray for discernment. The Lord calls us to do that. I've done that over the years. I really think he's answered that prayer. And continues to. Having our minds sharpened, we're called to have our minds renewed, and so that's really good in those ways too. So I'd encourage you to do that, David. Williams, yeah. I mean, I'm working with. They're all at my office. Yeah. I mean, there's some. I'm trying to see here if there's any commentaries behind me. No, these are just kind of books I've already read. Really, I don't really look at these books that much. Yeah, I don't have any commentaries back here. Email me, David, and email me, and here's my email there, rthco@protonmail, and I'll give you a list. I've got about 6, 7 that I'm using for Acts right now, and before that I was in Hebrews, and so there's a lot of them where it'll be just a single guy, and he'll focus just on John or Romans. And, he has a theological persuasion, as everybody does. And so if you know that going in, I would say find somebody that's a little, not the opposite, but a little different. Have like a diehard 5-pointer, have somebody who's less so, or somebody who's Arminian, or somebody who's this, or somebody who's, Methodist, but they're, don't write me off. But we want to be sharp, and we want to know what's really going on in the text and how it applies, what it meant for them and how it applies for us. And I think a lot of people have something to say, and when we kind of write people off, we think, well, I'm only going to listen to this guy. Well, yeah, I mean, you can, but then you just start sounding like a puppet, and then we tend to then continue to lift that guy up, because don't listen to everything I say. Trust me. Like, I'm not God, and I'm not your pastor unless you're watching and you go to my church. But I appreciate these questions, and I'm thankful for these, and really thankful for everybody who's here. So yeah, I mean, there's one, I can't remember any of the names. They're not near me. They're at my office at the church building. So email me, rthco@protonmail. And yeah, good to see you back. Montana Viking. Mark, how you doing, brother? Let's see. Our church is heavy in discipleship and serving. My pastor preaches expository style, we're SBC, but he regularly says we don't follow much of what they endorse now. Yeah, and see, that's the difference between the SBC and a lot of other places. Like, we own our building. So, like, what's it? Bart Barber is the pastor now, or the president. It was Ed Litton before, the plagiarist guy. And then JD Greer for 3 years because of COVID. And like, any of those guys, they could come with Al Mohler and all 5 of the other presidents of the Southern Baptist Theological, all the seminaries. They could all come to the church building, and I'm there, and they're all there, and they could say, we need you to do this. We heard you're talking about this, and you're denouncing that, and we don't like that you have a YouTube channel, and you call SBC people out, the RLC, and you call this guy a heretic. We don't like any of that. You need to stop. We're going to take your building otherwise. They have zero power, zero influence, and zero power, or as much influence as we want them to, right? They produce content. SBC does. There's a whole, Lifeway bookstores. That's a whole thing, if you know those. And so that's where it's like, a lot of people don't understand that, like, you don't need to give much at all to the SBC to still influence and still be part of it. Now, if people are calling up and y'all move to the area, right? And people are doing that. If you guys are looking to move, please consider Kentucky. It really is a fabulous place. And it's really cheap. But it's like, hey, Pastor Richard, yeah, how are you? Okay, yeah. So New Harvest Baptist Church, is that a Southern Baptist church? Yeah, matter of fact, we are. Okay, thanks. And they don't go. And that, my old pastor, they left the Southern Baptist Convention. Now, he wasn't a super diehard guy at all, and I don't think he was very much Southern Baptist to begin with anyway. Although theologically, he more or less is. And so it can harm it as well. So my husband is also a Southern Baptist pastor, and I want him to subscribe to you and get more resources. Well, yeah, thank you, Judy. If you don't mind telling me where you're at, that'd be cool. I'm always curious. Anybody who's still watching, why don't you fire off where you are, either your state or your city, your town. That'd be good. And then we'll wrap up with that. I'm really enjoying your study on women in ministry. I was raised that women do not speak in church conference. We have long moved away from that, but I do find your study interesting. Well, very good. Very good. Thank you. Thanks so much. Look up Kenneth Weiss. It looks like, is that like French maybe? West? I don't know. German maybe? Weuest. Weuest. Like to know your thoughts. I know he was early 1900s. Okay. Yeah, and yeah, the SBC is a bottom-up denomination. It is. So, did you get my email, David? Can you drop that one more time? Judy's in North Georgia. St. Anthony, California, Central Coast. That's right. I know Mark's in Montana. His name gives it away. Montana Viking. I know James. I don't know if he's still on or not. He's up in Ohio as well. And Phil here is in Kentucky. I think he said he was on break, so he's probably not here. I don't know where Marie is. Where are you at, Marie? I forget. Was it Texas? I don't know. Anyway. It still says there's 7 people, but not everybody's always in the chat. Susie Q, Houston. That's right. Yeah, you're in Texas too. That's right. Well, it's good to be back, everybody. I'm encouraged. And first couple minutes doing this, there really wasn't many people here. And I was like, well, I guess it's too late. So, or everybody forgot about me. That's okay. Start over. I didn't get as many subscribers as I would hope, but I also wasn't really producing any videos. But again, if you haven't subscribed, please do that. I'm trying to pass that 1,000 mark. That's when YouTube opens up the monetization and you can start getting a little bit of ad revenue for that. So I'm not really begging for coins on the street. At least that's the hope. So if you want to, meantime, you can do that. You can support me at Buy Me a Cup of Coffee as well. It's kind of like Patreon. You just go to buymeacupofcoffee.com/Richard T. Henry. You could follow me there. I don't really do anything over there. I do stuff on here. And you can go to my website. That's where everything is, my brand new website, loaded up, ready to go. And so Twitter's there. Why is that still up? Sorry. Twitter's there. Gab. Buy Me a Cup of Coffee. Of course, YouTube. Oops, sorry. And so I've got my YouTube channel. I've got my YouTube channel where I'm other places on other people's channel. There's Jason, a couple with Jason. There's April. There's Rick Caldwell, if you guys know him. And then I'm also going to be writing there more regularly as well. So look out for that. So richardthenry.com is that. And then if you're interested, you want to go to the website for the church, newharvestbaptist.org. But that you can find my sermons also on the YouTube channel, which I upload. We upload those every week. I'm also doing a study on denominations. And we're going through, I think you guys can hear that, but went back to the early church and the split. There's the 54 split, East and West, of course, the Reformation, but there were splits and stuff beforehand. And really trying to get down to like why they're Methodists and why are they Baptists and why are they called Lutheran and why they're like there's Calvinists, but there's like not a Calvinist denomination and Presbyterians, but they're liberal, but they're not. Like it's wacky. It's really crazy how many different things there are. So if you're curious, you want to look at that. That's the New Harvest YouTube channel. Detroit is where David is. Right on. Detroit Metro. Actually, it was another place early 2019. I've been looking for a pastorate for a while. 2019 beginning, I was up in Columbus. It's north of Detroit, maybe like an hour and a half. Super cold. We went up in January and I candidated, and they said we want you, and I ended up saying no for a few reasons. I'll talk about another time maybe. And we went through Detroit. And then on the West Coast, I remember being there and we're like, oh man, I wish we were in Western Michigan. So like later that year, there was a thing in Grand Rapids for an associate pastor, but that was youth. And he wanted to say yes, but I guess it was like it was like a congregational vote sort of or something. It was weird. But that didn't work out. They said no. But anyway, that was in Grand Rapids. I'll be in touch. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, David. We like being part of the SBC so much for support between pastors. My husband meets with several pastors every Monday morning for devotion. Of course, they go out to eat. Yeah. I have a couple pastor friends here too. Town we're in is about 8,000 people, and then the church is in a town of less than 1,000. So it's a smaller area, more rural. So let's see. All right, that's it. We're gonna wrap up. There's my email. If anybody's curious, we link up, or you can go to my website, like I said, richardthenry.com. So y'all take care. I feel like we should pray. I want to pray. So let's pray. Gracious God and Father, thank you for your kindness towards us. Thank you for even just technology. And though this can be easily used for harm, for violence, for scandalizing things and lust and pornography and ridicule and mean mocking and just all sorts of just bad stuff that people are probably doing this moment. It can also be used for good. And it is a tool like anything else. A hammer can be used for a nail or it can be used to hit somebody in the head with. And we don't want to do that. We want to be wise stewards of the things you give us. So I pray that you will please help me to balance my duties here. Thank you for the men and women who are watching, who are participating, for following. Thank you for even just Judy just mentioning that now and asking good questions and many others that are wanting to know answers. I pray that they will get to know their pastors better if they don't already, that they will support their local churches financially and giving their time and their energy, and that you will just continue to build your kingdom. Help us to be confident, help us to be optimistic, and knowing that you, Jesus, are King and you're ruling and reigning, though it doesn't always seem like it. So help us now as we go to sleep, whatever time it is when somebody's watching this. I'm going to go to sleep right now. But again, thank you for rest. Thank you for this time of 30 plus days of being off of YouTube and things. And I pray it will be beneficial for me and for those involved as well. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, y'all. You have a good rest of your night. We'll see you later.